Hi all, I hope you're doing well and welcome to this film crowdfunding webinar. First things first, it would be fantastic if you guys could give me a quick thumbs up in the comments if you can hear me okay, if you can see me okay, and just to make sure that everything is working. So if you guys could give me a quick yes in the comments, that would be fantastic. Now, I'm also going to mention that there is a very slight delay between me actually speaking and you guys hearing it. So about 20 seconds or so. So if you guys, ask a question or if there is anything that, isn't working and you let me know, it's likely to be a 20 or 30-second delay before I actually kind of respond to that. So that said, I am just going to dive straight in. This webinar is going to be about 45 minutes long, where we'll dive into some of the key strategies for film crowdfunding. If you guys have any questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to ask in the chat. I'm going to either try to get through some of the questions as you guys ask them if I feel like they're very relevant to that section, or leave some of them towards the end, and we will have a short Q&A session at the very end as well. Also, feel free to use this as an opportunity to network with each other in the chat. Feel free to introduce yourselves. Let us know if you have any crowdfunding campaigns that are currently live, or just to see if there might be other people in the same city as you are right now here in this webinar. And yeah, just to use it as an additional networking opportunity as well. Okay, great. So I am going to get started. And in today's webinar, we are going to go through a couple of different parts. We're going to have a quick introduction to crowdfunding, what it is. We're going to dive into some of the statistics and strategy. We're going to walk you through the essential steps to any successful film crowdfunding campaign. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how to scale to raise more than 10K, and in general, how to market your campaign, how to find backers, how to make sure that there are people actually supporting your campaign. So a little bit about me. I started off as a digital marketing consultant. I have been working in marketing for the last 10 years. I also used to work as a film producer. I now help fund some films. I run a short film fund, but I haven't actually produced a film myself in about 4 or 5 years because I've actually been quite busy as a crowdfunding coach. Also, I have founded CineCircle, and we've been around for about 6 years, where we run a variety of different events where we try to teach filmmakers the business side of the industry. So mainly how to get funding, how to get distribution, and how to develop a career. How do you monetize what might be a hobby for you at the moment and turn it into an actual business or career? So if you guys are interested in any of those aspects and you're not familiar with CineCircle, feel free to take a look at the link just below the video on our website to see what we're about. Okay. So let me just speed through this first section on what crowdfunding is specifically for filmmakers, just to kind of get out any kind of misconceptions. So crowdfunding is a way of funding your creative project, funding your film in this case, by getting a large number of people to support small amounts to actually get the project funded. And when people ask me, why you should crowdfund, I always reply on why you shouldn't crowdfund, which is to make money for yourself. The money should be going to a project. That doesn't mean you can't pay yourself, but if you're trying to make, to crowdfund a film, to pay yourself a really high salary, that's not what it is. It's meant to be about bringing a project together, creating a community around you to bring a project to life together. And who are backers and where do they come from? So this is where I think a lot of people kind of have some misconceptions as to how backers are found. Backers are really anyone who is going to support your campaign financially. And where do they come from? I mean, this is going to be a little bit about what we're going to be discussing today, but they can come really from anywhere. The one general rule is it usually comes from either people that you know or people that get to know you and feel like they know you throughout your marketing efforts, because people tend to support the people behind the projects rather than the projects themselves. That tends to be the sort of the way that crowdfunding funds films. But we're going to dive into some of the details over here because, of course, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're just going to be making money through crowdfunding from family and friends, because you can't raise, or most of us can't raise, more than 10K through just family and friends. So we're going to be discussing how do you get a wider audience to feel like they're very connected to you and to know you, so that you can raise higher amounts. And I'm going to go through some quick statistics and strategy first, including what platform to use, when to launch your campaign, how long it should be, and what your target should be, to give you guys a couple of quick pointers and quick wins to start off with before we head into the more strategic elements. So when should you launch your crowdfunding campaign? There are differences between campaigns, but generally speaking, you want to launch on a Tuesday at 11 a.m. This is because weekends are notoriously bad for crowdfunding, and you always want to make sure that the first couple of days of your crowdfunding campaign are really strong, because most of the time in the first 72 hours or in the main 4 days, the first 4 days of a crowdfunding campaign, you can already tell whether it's going to be successful or not. You don't want to launch on a Monday because people have a lot of emails to catch up on the Monday. People tend to hate Mondays anyway, so most people don't want to support a crowdfunding campaign, which is why you want to launch on a Tuesday, so that you have a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, 4 full days before you hit your first weekend, when you're going to likely start seeing a kind of plateau in the number of donations that you're getting. So yeah, Tuesday at 11 a.m. What should your target be? This range is huge. You can crowdfund £200, you can crowdfund £200,000. I recently interviewed some people who have crowdfunded, 1.5 million for their film projects. So the range is absolutely huge. Most people fall inside the range of between 5 and 25K. But that said, the formula for how much you should crowdfund is, what is the minimum amount that you need to make your film where you're still going to be really excited to make your film for that budget? So some of you who might be crowdfunding for shorts, you might be thinking, well, if really, push came to shove and I would be able to make my short for £5,000 or $5,000, but that wouldn't really excite me. Then you're most likely not going to get that funding for a crowdfunding campaign, because you need that excitement, you need that energy. So you're going to want to increase that target. On the other hand, if you're starting to get to a really, really high target, it's going to be really, really difficult to get that through. So you want to find that sweet spot in the middle, where it's achievable but really exciting at the same time. How long should your campaign last? This is showing you guys the percentage of where the funding came from, the duration of the campaign. So you can see for most campaigns, on average, you have a huge number of backers at the very start, at the very beginning couple of days, and at the very the very end. And the reason for that is, at the start you have a lot of urgency and you have a lot of excitement, and at the end you have pure urgency because the campaign is about to end. And actually, the bit in the middle, you want to keep that as short as possible. The longer that is, the more people get drained with seeing your post and so on. So what I find is that the optimal length of time is about 30 days. And I say about 30 days because what you really want to do is you want to take the Tuesday that you are launching your crowdfunding campaign, and then find the nearest Friday to being 30 days away from that Tuesday, and end that campaign on that Friday. So it's about 30 days. And the reason why you want to end on a Friday is because, as I mentioned, weekends are notoriously bad for crowdfunding. The ending of your campaign is really, really crucial. So you want to make sure that the last 5 days of your crowdfunding campaign are all weekdays, which is why you finish on a Friday, so that you have a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday as your last 5 days of a crowdfunding campaign. Next, what platform should I use? Now, I am going to show you guys the big differences between Kickstarter and Indiegogo, but there are also many other platforms that you can use. If you're in the UK, you could take a look at Greenlit. That is a specific crowdfunding campaign for film projects and for creative projects. If you're in the US, you can take a look at Seed and Spark. That's also a great one to use for filmmakers. But now there's a big difference between Kickstarter and Indiegogo, which are probably the most popular ones. And the difference there is that Kickstarter is known for being an all or nothing funding platform, whereas Indiegogo also offers all or nothing, but it's sort of more known for being a flexible funding method. And what that means is that most campaigns on Indiegogo, whether they hit their target or not, the filmmakers get to keep the money. And on Kickstarter, if you don't hit your target, no one is actually going to be charged, and you don't get to keep your money. So if you're raising £10,000 on Kickstarter and you raise £9,999, you don't keep any of that money, and the backers keep it all. On Indiegogo, if that happens, you would still keep the money. But what happens is that this means that on Kickstarter, you tend to have a much higher success rate. Why? Well, at the very start of the crowdfunding campaign, people will be a lot more confident to donate money to you. Because with Kickstarter, if you send me a link to your crowdfunding campaign and you're at £0 funded or $0 funded, I know that I can give you, £200, $200, and that my money is safe, because unless you get to that whole target and you have enough money to make the film the way that you promised it, I will never be charged. On Indiegogo, on the other hand, if I give you £50 or $50 at the very start and no one else backs your campaign, you still keep my money, but you can't make the film, which is why starts tend to be slower on Indiegogo. And the exact same thing happens towards the end. So with Kickstarter, there's a huge urgency. If you're at £8,000 funded and you need to get to 10K, on Kickstarter, there will be this huge amount of urgency to get to that, to that 10K. People will be, sharing your post. You're going to be, you and your team are going to be super motivated. People are going to be increasing their pledges to try and get you to that amount. On Indiegogo, everyone, including yourself, will go, hey, we got to 8K. That's pretty good. Yeah, okay, it would be nice to get to 10K, but it's, we already have enough. So that's why on Kickstarter, you tend, because of the all or nothing funding model, you do tend to, your campaigns, the success rate tends to be a lot higher than on Indiegogo. So have a think about that when you're picking kind of what platform you're using and also what the funding model is going to be. And then finally, just do your research. This is showing you guys the success rate based on when the project creator on Kickstarter joined Kickstarter, how many weeks before they launched their first campaign. So on the very left-hand side, the project creator launched their campaign just 1 week after joining the platform, 25% success rate, versus if they were 2 years on the platform, they have a 50% success rate. And that's because you're on the platform, you're engaging with people, you're engaging with the community there, you're learning, you're seeing what works, what doesn't work, and that really improves your success rate. So if you're currently looking to launch a short sci-fi, short film that's a kind of sci-fi fantasy short based in the US with a target of $10,000, take a look at other short films that raised $10,000 in the US that were sci-fi short films. Take a look at those films, learn to see what worked for them, what didn't, and just do your research on that, because that's gonna help you a lot when you're setting up your own crowdfunding campaign. Okay, now I wanna move on to some of the four essential steps to getting your film crowdfunded. And the great thing is that no marketing strategies will really help you unless you get those 4 steps right. But the great thing is if you do get them right, you actually won't need advanced marketing strategies. So my suggestion would be, don't do anything until you get these 4 steps right. And again, the great thing is you can do them right here at home without actually needing anyone else. You can do them completely by yourself. The first step is to establish your why. You need to know why you're making your film, and you actually want to divide this into 3 separate whys. The first is the selfish why. You need to have a really, really strong reason to want to make your film in order for this crowdfunding campaign to be successful. If your why isn't strong enough, most likely your campaign won't be successful. And the reason is crowdfunding is tough. You really, really need to want it. So if you're making a short just because you're going to make a short, you're likely not to have enough motivation to actually go through and really, do what it takes to make your crowdfunding campaign successful. So you need a strong why. Really figure out, why is this film going to be super important to you, your business, your career trajectory, or is this film about a topic that you're really incredibly passionate about? You need to have a really strong reason why you want to make this film. The second is the strategic why, which is, what are you actually going to do with this film once it's done? How is it going to win awards? How is it going to, help you make your next feature? How is it going to be, a step up in all these different ways? And your strategic why, your selfish why is for you. Your strategic why is for the rest of the crew and your entire team. If you don't have a good plan for your film, no one is going to join your team and help you promote the campaign and help you make the film. So you need to develop a strategic why to attract team members. And then you have the public why. This is the why for the audience. Why are you really making this film for the audience? What is the effect that you want this to have on them? So this could be that you're trying to shed light on a topic that hasn't really been discussed enough in your mind. It could be that you want to just make, the most hilarious comedy that's, ever been done. You want to make, the scariest horror film. Whatever that reason is, you got to really figure out, what is the reaction you want to get from the audience. And that is going to be your public why. That's what's good. That's what you're going to say to everyone, that you're really trying to make this film because of this, because you want to get this reaction from the audience. And then you want to wrap all of those whys into a story, and that is going to be your pitch. And I'm going to discuss that in one of the next steps. But before I do, let's move on to step number 2. The next thing is, you got to really truly believe in your film, which is why your selfish why, your strategic why, your public why, they all need to be really thought through and really, really honest and really, and really clear for you. Because if you don't truly believe in your film, again, you won't be able to have a successful crowdfunding campaign. On the other hand, if you really believe in your film, that belief is going to be contagious. And that is really going to help you with the crowdfunding campaign. So I want to ask you guys a question. This is one question that I normally ask everyone, which is, if I told you that all you needed to do was to raise £50,000 or $50,000 for your film, and if you manage to raise that amount, you would be guaranteed to win an Oscar. You would be guaranteed that your film would, really, really, shoot off your career, and that, you'd be making millions within, the next year of making that film. Would you be able to raise that money? Would you find a way, whether it's through family, through friends, through, pitching in your own money, through, kind of really, really, strategic marketing and so on? Would you be able to raise that 50K if you had an absolute certainty that it was going to pay off in the future? For most of you, I reckon you would. You would find a way. If you had the absolute certainty, you would find a way. But most filmmakers, they don't have that certainty, because they're making a film because they might think it's cool, or because they might think, yeah, it's going to be a pretty cool film. If that's your why, because you want to make a pretty cool film, most likely people won't give you money for your crowdfunding campaign, because they will be able to see that. This is why you really need to believe in your film, because that belief is going to be contagious, and all of your backers and supporters and people that you reach out to will really see that you really believe in your film, and they will believe in it as well. Next, you want to reinforce that belief with evidence. Now, this can be past work, show reels, things like that. It can be, bringing on board some notable cast and crew. It can be winning pitching competitions, or it can be through feedback. But either way, you want to find various different ways to really figure out, is this film actually going to be good? Can I really reinforce this belief that I really believe in this film? But can I reinforce that belief with evidence? So again, I've got a great actor on board. I won a pitching competition. I got feedback from people who said the film was great. So have a think about how you can reinforce that belief with evidence. And then finally, you want to create the perfect pitch. And this perfect pitch is going to be what you're going to be using when you're going to be telling someone about your crowdfunding campaign when you meet them for a cup of coffee. It's going to be the way that you'll be, pitching your film in your crowdfunding video on your crowdfunding page. It's going to be what you're going to be writing in the messages when you're going to be messaging people about the crowdfunding campaign. Everywhere there, you are going to be pitching your film. And what creates the perfect pitch is not a film story, but your campaign story, your personal story. So what most people do is they start pitching the film. They say, my film is going to be about, this topic, and, it's going to be, a horror film, and it's going to be really scary, and, there's going to have these characters and these plots and these themes. Most people won't care, because at the end of the day, to them, it's going to be another film. What will set you apart from everybody else is you and your personal story. Why are you making this film? Because most people are a lot more interested in real stories than a fictional story that someone has made up in a film, which is why your pitch shouldn't be the pitch of your story, the pitch of your film. It should be you pitching why you are making this film. That should be the introduction every single time. Because once again, as I said at the start, people tend to support the people behind the projects rather than the crowdfunding projects themselves. So you need to make it personal and really genuine. And I'm going to give you guys a couple of different examples of how filmmakers have done that. I'm going to start off with actually my own crowdfunding campaign that I did a few years ago, where we raised about 30K for a short film about mental health. And we started off by pitching the film, really pitching the film rather than why we were making it. So we were telling people, listen, we want to create a film which is going to shed light on the topic of mental health, how many people still struggle with mental health, but also we want to discuss how actually making small contributions in our society and small acts of kindness, how those can have a massive impact on people's lives. And honestly, like we were talking and then we were discussing characters and things and so on, nobody cared. We thought we had this really compelling pitch and nobody cared. People were literally falling asleep as we were telling them the pitch. It didn't work at networking events. It didn't work when we were pitching it to our family and friends, people who knew us. And then we realized we need to tell the real story of why we're making this film. So then we decided to tell that story. And here it is. A little while ago, someone who was very, very close to me was struggling with mental health, with depression, and by the way, guys, I am going to give a bit of a trigger warning over here. So for anyone who might be sensitive to topics around mental health and so on, you can mute yourself for the next minute or so. So someone who was very, very close to me, who was struggling with depression, with anxiety, he was going for a really, really rough time. And one day she decided she didn't want to be here anymore and she wanted to end her life that day. And she went into work knowing that this was going to be her last day at work. She went in, she sat down at her desk completely lifeless, not knowing what the point of her being there was, because she knew what she was going to do after work. One of her colleagues saw that she was really struggling, walked past her and made her a cup of tea. She made her a cup of tea and she asked her, how are you? But not just how are you, she really asked how she was. And that tiny act of kindness saved her life that day. Quite literally, it was this small act of kindness of making her a cup of tea that made her feel noticed, that made her feel like people care about her, like people would miss her when she was gone, like people are here and care for her. And she told me this a couple of weeks after it happened. And in that split moment, I realized two things. One, how incredibly fragile a life can be, but two, how powerful small, tiny acts of kindness can be. And so we decided to make a film exactly about this. We wanted to make a film which shows how tiny, small acts of kindness in our society can have a massive, massive positive impact on our mental health. And that's how we decided to make this film. And this film is, and we would then start talking about the film. That pitch worked so much better than just talking about the film, because it was real, it was from the heart, it was something that we were obviously really, really passionate about, it was genuine. And people really listened to it, remembered it. They then started telling their friends about it. So figure out specifically why you want to make this film. Now I'm going to give you guys a completely different example, which is a pitch for it was a short kind of series about London tour guides, a comedy series about London tour guides. So these two actors came to me once and they said they wanted to create a comedy series about tour guides and they wanted to crowdfund the film. And they started telling me about all the different, characters that they were making up and the plots and so on. And I kind of told them, look, this really isn't working. Like, I don't really understand why this is going to be funny. It's really hard to kind of, follow all these characters. Can you guys just give me one story of why you want to make this film? One story of maybe something funny that's happened while you were a tour guide and that made you want to make this film. And they said, okay, actually, one of them said, I'll tell you the story of my first time while I was a tour guide. My first time when I got to be a tour guide, on a bus by myself. So I go for a lot of training and so on, but this was the first time that I had my own bus. And I was in London and, it was a really busy Saturday, actually. We got on the bus was packed, with tourists. We were really excited. We were driving through London. I was telling everyone about all the monuments. People were asking questions. I knew all the answers. I felt super confident. I felt like it was going great until I saw that kid pissing out the window. The mom was sitting right next to the kid. She could see that he was pissing out the window and she wasn't doing anything about it. And I literally stood there thinking to myself, what do you do in that situation with that kid pissing out the window? And that's the moment that I knew, this is crazy. We need to make a comedy web series about this, because this was the first out of 1,000 incredibly hilarious incidents that happened and crazy moments on in my career as a tour guide. And again, because that was a real story, it made it funnier. It made it, it made it so much more interesting. And again, it's something that you listen to and you can't believe, and you go home and you tell your other, your family, your friends, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whoever, about it, because it's real. And we really resonate with real stories. So try to figure out what is the real story of why you want to make your film and why you want to crowdfund that film. And that is going to be your pitch that's going to get everyone listening. Okay. So now that we've got those 4 essential steps right, if you guys, go away and you really focus on that, the next step is the outreach and communication. How do you get that pitch in front of as many people as possible in the best way? And here is the strategy. The formula for a successful crowdfunding campaign is reaching out to a big number of people who know about your project in a very personal way. So you want to make sure you reach out to people in a personal way, and you only want to reach out really to people who know you or know about your project. Because otherwise, you're probably going to end up spamming a ton of people who are not interested. And how do you do that? Well, first of all, how do you scale personal outreach? So the way that you reach out to your audience really matters. A Facebook ad or a social media post is one of the least personal things you can do, because you're really just saying, I want this message to go out to everyone and anyone. On the other hand, a personalized email is something that's a lot more sort of personal. A private message on Facebook or a DM on Instagram to someone that that is following you and so on. That's something that, again, the person knows that you wrote that specifically for them. A phone call, calling someone and actually telling them about your campaign. Or, the most personal way you can reach out to someone is in person, actually speaking to someone face to face. So this just shows you the sort of, from the least personal to the most personal way, how you can reach out to people. So how do you reach out to people in such a personal way, but on a mass scale? So here is a couple of quick tips. The first, when you launch your crowdfunding campaign, on day 1, You want to draft. What you want to do is you want to send out 1,000 emails to every single one of your contacts that you have their email address, but you want to send out an email that's really personal to that person. So, hey, John, it's been 6 months since I saw you at that networking event. I hope you're doing well. I hope your acting career is going really great. I saw that you recently worked on this show. Fantastic, great for you. By the way, I've just actually started working on my own film that I'm producing, and I just launched a crowdfunding campaign. I would love it if you could, take a look at the campaign, let me know your thoughts, and consider supporting it. That's a very personalized email. You can't write 1,000 of those on the day that you launch your crowdfunding campaign, but that's really what you want to do. So what I'd suggest is actually looking at every single contact that you have that you can email and drafting your emails. For example, in Gmail, you can literally just write those emails to the person, put their email address in, and just close the email. It will get saved in your drafts folder. And you can do, 10 emails a day, 5 emails a day. Just keep drafting those emails for a month, even 2 months before the launch of your crowdfunding campaign. And then on the day of your crowdfunding campaign, just click send, 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 send. And within 5 minutes, you can send hundreds of highly, highly personalized emails to all of your personal contacts, letting them know that you've just launched your crowdfunding campaign. This will work really well. Now, there's other things that you can do. For example, you can use, rather than using, for anyone here who's, familiar with marketing, MailChimp is a very popular newsletter kind of software. But rather than sending newsletters, which we know are very kind of impersonal, you can use something like MailMerge, which is actually free to a certain number of emails, but it basically sends emails from your Gmail, but on a mass scale. So you can take a look at that. You can look at, kind of sending out bulk DMs in some ways. You can look at tagging people in individual posts, or, as I mentioned, the most personal way that you can reach out to someone is face-to-face. Now, rather than going out and having 500 coffees with 500 people, create an event. Invite people and talk to them face-to-face. Create a film networking event, for example, in your town, in your city. Also invite all of your friends and use it as an opportunity to tell everyone about the launch of your crowdfunding campaign. You can really reach out to a lot of people in a personal way like that. Next, I want to talk a little bit about team building, because team building is one of the best ways to scale your marketing, to scale your crowdfunding campaign without having a huge amount of money, for example, put into your campaign. Because growing a team, it does a couple of different things. First of all, it multiplies the amount of personal contacts who will back your campaign, because if you think about it, you probably know 5 or 10 people who pretty much no matter what, if you ask them to support the crowdfunding campaign, they would support it, right? If you have 6 or 7 people with you who are all promoting the crowdfunding campaign, they will all have those 10 people. And you will suddenly have a lot of people that you can reach out to. It also massively expands your social media reach for free. So for example, if you make a post on Facebook, it will probably be seen by about 50 people, for example, on your Facebook page. But if suddenly every single one, 10 people from your team all like the post, share the post, and comment on the post, it's not going to be seen by 10 times more people, but like 500. It might be seen by 2, 3, 4,000 people, because suddenly Facebook starts promoting it to a much, much wider audience. You'll also have much more varying skill sets on your team. So you will have some people who are, might be graphic designers, and they can help you, create the graphics for your crowdfunding page. Some of the people could be, editors. They can help you edit the video for your crowdfunding page, and so on. You'll also have more resources for rewards and perks. So if you have a group of 10 people, again, you're all making this crowdfunding project together, it might turn out that one of them has an uncle somewhere who's got an Airbnb, who's willing to give that Airbnb for a weekend as a reward for your crowdfunding campaign. Or one of the people might have film equipment that they're willing to hire out as a reward for your crowdfunding campaign. So it really helps with rewards and perks. It's also great for boosting team morale and crowdfunding campaigns can get tough, and it's good to have a supportive team around you. And then the final thing is really adding to that campaign credibility. Because if it's just you, people tend to think, okay, well, there's this one person, he thinks this idea is good, but can he really do it? The moment you have a large team involved who are all promoting the crowdfunding campaign, it adds that level of credibility to the campaign where people feel, okay, well, it's not just him. There's at least 10 other people who all believe in this project. Therefore, it can't be bad, or it can't be that bad. And the theory here is very simple, which is, again, if you gather 10 filmmakers, each filmmaker just needs to find 20 backers during that 1 month. On an average backing of £50 or $50, you will raise 10K. So if that theory is simple, then why aren't more people doing it? Or, even if they have a team, like why is it so hard still to raise that 10K? And I think there is one key element that people get wrong when they're bringing a team together, because what you want to avoid is you don't want to bring a team member on board your project. The moment you do that, that second you do that, you disincentivize that person from helping you raise the funds for that film, because they right away go, well, it's not my project. It's your project. I'm just helping you. All of their backers will all think the same thing. Well, it's not really his project. He's just helping out. He's just, a PA on this film or so on. So you want to make sure that you bring a team so that you can create a project together, so that you can all feel like that you're doing it together. And you really want to find ways of incentivizing your team as well, not through monetary ways, but really figuring out what is it that your team members want. I mean, maybe, someone on your team is an actor and they really want to get an agent, and you can all pull your resources together to help him find an agent if he helps you crowdfund that film. Maybe you've got a DOP on board the project and you say, listen, we can make the film on a shoestring budget, but if we raise that 10, 15K, we can shoot the film on an Arri Alexa with anamorphic lenses. And, maybe that's going to be a way of really getting, a camera operator, a DOP to get really, really invested in the campaign, because you want to make sure that every single person on your team also has a strong selfish why. Because if their selfish why is as strong as yours, then you will all do great on that crowdfunding campaign. And if you bring that team together, you'll be able to raise really high amounts. But if those team members do not have a selfish why, they're most likely not going to help you much. And that's how most crowdfunding campaigns fall apart, where you have a team of 10 and there's only one person that's really doing the work. That's because that one person brought all of them on board their project, rather than giving them their own selfish whys so that they can create a project with you. So for example, for my 30K crowdfunding campaign, it was me and it was 2 other campaign managers or project creators. We essentially came up with the story together. We decided to make the film together. We then brought on board 12 associate producers, and we had 5 of the cast and crew who were also really helping to promote the campaign. This was, again, a 30K crowdfunding campaign. Each one of us just had to find 1.5K, which was doable. And we just crossed that threshold and we raised like 13.5K or something. So have a think about how you can build a team, because if you can build a team, you'll be able to crowdfund really high amounts. Okay, so that's all that we're gonna have time for today. Sorry, I realize I talk very fast during these webinars because I'm trying to get through as much information as possible. But I'd love to know, first of all, if you guys have any questions for me. Anything that you'd like to ask. And I also want to use this as an opportunity to tell you a little bit more about CineCircle and CineCircle Pro especially, because we have launched this membership program as well, where for a variety of different things, we are, again, trying to teach filmmakers the business side of the industry. And this includes how to get film funding, film distribution, how to develop your career, how to acquire new clients. And we do this through this platform. On this platform, you can actually get a 6-hour course, which is this kind of complete course on film crowdfunding that goes into all the nitty-gritty details. There's various different talks and courses on there as well by over 60 different speakers, including how to find private investors, how to create a successful film festival strategy, how to pitch, and so on. And you can get a 50% discount now for the next 24 hours with the code CF15JAN. So I'm just going to put these links here in the chat, and then I see a first question over here, so I'm going to get to that in a second. But yeah, here's the link if you guys are interested and would like to check that out. And I'm just going to add that code in here as well. Cool. So government funding. Well, government funding, I think if you're kind of talking about like the BFI funding and so on in the UK, I think that is quite a different topic. It's quite hard to discuss that in a pretty short period of time. But again, actually on this platform on CineCircle Pro, we have a variety of different talks with people who have successfully funded their films for the BFI and through other government funding bodies. So it could be worth checking out. But it's hard to answer that question unless you do have a more specific question about government funding or something quite specific. But as a general topic, it's hard to answer that as a question. Let me know if you guys have any other questions. Just trying to look for the chat over here. But yeah, I don't see others. Right. So once you raise 30K, what happened to your movie? Yeah, so we had quite a good run in terms of the festival run. So I think we won over 10 different festivals. We were nominated for, or admitted to about 20 others. And then I actually used that to, as a really great portfolio, which I then used to get jobs, for example, shooting music videos for Warner Brothers Records and various other companies like that. So it was a great way to use that as a calling card to do kind of further projects. And actually the very first premiere of that short film was our very first CineCircle event, which has now turned into an events company where we have done over 160 events over the last 6 years, with over 25,000 attendees. So it's great how those little kind of premieres and things can lead to much bigger things as well. Great. Okay, guys. Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for attending. Thank you so much for listening. I'm also going to add my personal email in here in case you guys have any other questions. Have any questions about CineCircle, what we do. We also do crowdfunding coaching, more personalized coaching, if that's something that any of you guys are interested in. So yeah, feel free to send me an email if you guys have any questions like that. I see a question. As a director focused within commercial and MVs, is it important to have short film experience in order to receive more funding? Sorry, so I'm just trying to understand the question. Is it more important to have film experience in order to receive more funding? When it comes to kind of crowdfunding, do you mean, or is it? Or if you could clarify on that, because I think the more experience you have, the better. But you don't necessarily need experience in kind of short films in order to do commercials, if that's your question. But yeah, I think also when it comes to crowdfunding campaigns, for example, if you're making a short film, actually having experience on big commercial shoots and so on is actually probably more important than having specific experience in short films. Because I find most people have experience, at some point had experience with short films. And yeah, my name, everyone calls me Zibi, so you can. My full name is a little hard to pronounce, but this is sort of the name that I go by. Okay, fantastic, guys. So thank you so much once again for watching, for joining us today, and I hope that you all found it useful. And I wish you guys all the best of luck on your film crowdfunding campaigns as well. So hope you have a wonderful evening if you're in the UK, or morning if you're on the sort of West Coast in the US. And yeah, and hope to see you at some future Cine Circle events as well. So thanks so much, and take care, and good luck.